Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar merchandise review. In this one I want to take a look at the newly released 2023 calendar from Abrams Books, basically. So same publisher as the Kyoshi and Yang Chen novels. We got one of these calendars last year, and I basically noted when I reviewed it and went over it that I do think this is probably one of the more standout pieces of merchandise in that it's a usable item, a calendar, always nice to have, really nice art from an artist most of the fandom really likes, and I just thought it was a really cool thing in combination with the fact that it's basically like a collector's edition calendar because it comes with a kind of art print and stuff like that. So basically the question here is, in a way, how did it go so wrong in a way with this one? So I want to say straight at the start that if you have no experience with the 2022 calendar, then okay, sure, get the 2023 calendar if you need a calendar for next year and would like it to be Avatar. In that case, if you are completely new to this whole thing, the problem is pretty minimal to you, and it's a good calendar because otherwise the quality is actually the same as last year. But if you did buy last year's calendar like I did, you will begin to see the problem. It is nearly identical in nearly every category, and then there's also the slight sense of almost kind of borderline false advertising about how they switched the description for this halfway through, it's kind of announcement to release window to say it's actually not going to be as new as you think it's going to be. And so straight away, getting into this, I suppose, because look, in terms of the review of this, it's basically last year's calendar with a slightly different colored image as last year, and I'll get the comparison up in a second, and then you can see these are the images that they used this time out. So everything is the same except they have exchanged basically Bumi for Yoon here. They've exchanged Pakku for Yang Chen. And then the art print is Yang Chen instead of an Aang art print. So this is what your art print looks like. It's reasonably nice. It's not insane quality, but it's a reasonable card, if you want to frame it or whatever. It's just a clean version of the Dawn of Yang Chen cover. So it kind of is fitting for the year. No real problem there. The problem is that every other image is basically the same. Kyoshi's here. They switched what image they used from the last calendar and have instead used the cover for the Rise of Kyoshi here. So there's only 3 changes, and then the order of the other characters is slightly different. So bringing in the 2022 calendar here, I took it off my wall because of course I had been using it. You can see the problem here is that, hey look, they're basically the same. They've just inverted the color scheme here from being the sort of orange text blue swirl to being blue text orange swirl, and then it's kind of almost hard to make out, but it's slightly more zoomed in or out just by a tiny factor. Otherwise it's basically the exact same. Now you can see that down the bottom there they say bonus print. One says 13 illustrations, the other says 13 all new illustrations, and you begin to see sort of the problem that's happened here. But I'll get into that more in a second. Comparing once again the back here, you can sort of see what's going on here. On this one, of course, you have the Aang art print with the iceberg, and again you can see that they haven't changed the order that much ultimately. So you can sort of see what's gone on here. Everything is more or less the same, but you can see the 2 Kyoshis are actually different, and it just highlights they've used the exact same images over and over again, and that very much, like it sort of says on the back, or as I'll get to in the description when you see this online, this is literally just an updated version of this, and because of that I don't think it's as interesting. So if you are just looking for a quick look about what does it actually look like on the inside, we open up, you get kind of map of the nations with the last couple of months of this year, and then as you head into the actual months, of course, you start off, top page is full of the art of the character. Of course you get a quote, the name, of course, down here, and a symbol, and then you have the actual calendar part itself with the name of the month, some notable dates. It's pretty nice. It's pretty big, so it's very, very usable as a calendar. But the problem is, as you go through, it's like Sokka, Katara, Toph. The Yoon one, we'll talk about this a little bit because this might seem like it's new and that it's new for the calendar. But if you got the Shadow of Kyoshi exclusive edition when it first came out, you got this piece of art. Now, there's something slightly new about it. I think this is our first time seeing this image in color, so it's the first like official in color kind of image of Yoon. And the quote is, "The earth is my element, I just let other people borrow it sometimes," which is, I think, pretty fitting for him. And you get the name over here, and he is April. As we go through, of course, we've got, I skipped May there. We got Suki for May, Zuko's in June. It's the same stuff as you kind of go through it here. We got Rangi once again, Azula, Ozai. Again, there's the Rise of Kyoshi cover this time. Only Justice Will Bring Peace, which is different than the one they used in this, of course. So there's that. And then you get Aang, and then Yang Chen, of course, with the interesting quote, "Better to parry the sword than heal the wound." Probably one of the most interesting things about this calendar. This was the first piece of dialogue or text from the Dawn of Yang Chen we ever saw. So that was sort of interesting. But yeah, there's Yang Chen. And again, it is just the cover. And that's all there really is to say there with that. It is a nice calendar, but I feel like unless you didn't get last year's one, I don't think you need to go out and get it because it is so similar. If you're a collector, you probably will get it like myself. But otherwise, I think that the way they approached communicating about what this was and wasn't great. So this is where I'll open this up. So you can see here, old and new. So this is the official description that they had for this book as we went through the release cycle. So this was announced, this calendar for 2023 was announced in January of this year. And obviously it's come out now in November. Some places still say it's October. I don't really know what the exact deal with the release date is. It was a bit delayed. But either way, that's what's happened here. So we basically have on one side, the old one is what they put up in January when pre-orders went live for this thing. And then the new description is from May, when they made the change and first showed off, I suppose, the cover visuals for it for the first time. And you can see the differences. So straight away, you could see that there are a couple of key issues here. So showcasing 13 exclusive watercolor illustrations on the old one. So that's different than it says just saying showcasing 13 illustrations. So they took out exclusive because they were aware that they're not new. They're not exclusive because every piece of art here was either used in the last calendar, which already was not really new because it was used in other regions like DVD and Blu-ray sets, or it's just used in the novels, which they already have advertised on the back of these calendars. So, they can't say they're exclusive. But then it says here, look at the characters, including Aang, Karuk, Yue, Kyoshi, and Yang Chen. So, obviously, we just looked through the calendar there. There's no Karuk, there's no Yue. And I think people were quite excited when we actually got the official description for this for the first time. And it said Karuk and Yue because, especially after the Kyoshi novels, we now really like Karuk. So it would have been really cool to see Young-shan do an image for Kyoshi. And even Yue would be a little bit like, oh yeah, we don't get too much Yue art these days. So that would have been very nice. But then you continue to go through it and you get down to the last cut to down the bottom. Bonus print with Aang watercolor illustration. That's not what we got. And then 12 new illustrations created especially for this calendar. We certainly did not get that. And then you go to the new description, and of course, like I said, they remove exclusive here. And then they just say bonus print with Yang Chen illustration, and then they remove the 12 new illustrations to just say updated for 2030. And look, this is one of those things where I think this is a bit of a problem. I don't think this is an okay thing to do. They will give the excuse that, they put up an early listing, they are allowed to change it because legally, I guess they can do that. But that is not a good look to do that halfway through basically like the pre-order window on your book, when some people are going to pre-order it on the basis of all new images, including Karuk and UA, and then you get the thing and it doesn't have any of them. And their excuse in that case is that, like, well, we changed the listing. You could have looked at it and changed it. And that's where it comes down to, this was just changed. They never announced that it would be different or that there'd be a problem. We don't actually know why this change happened at a certain point in this book happening. The only thing I can think of is just that back in January, when they put up the listing for the 2023 calendar, it was before we knew that the third Chronicles of the Avatar book was Dawn of Yang Chen. Even it mentioning Yang Chen at the time was just like, oh cool, they're doing Karuk and Yang Chen, different avatars. That's fine, that makes sense. Because we didn't know who was next after Kyoshi. So maybe this is just a thing where, like, to avoid like highlighting something, maybe releasing ahead of time that Yang Chen is going to be the next book, they had a description that didn't match or something like that. But it still doesn't make sense, because they could have fit UA and Karuk in while taking out some of the other pieces that we already used last year. Sure, you can maybe hide the fact that, like, you know, ooh, the illustration, who's the print, who's on the print will be revealed at a later date, because that would have been revealing of a book. But I don't think that excuses just the fact that these two are almost identical outside of like two images, which themselves have been used elsewhere. And it's this weird sense of, like, at this point, it feels like unless they make a big change for next year, they just have this kind of problem where they're going to, I guess, announce the 2024 calendar in probably January. And now, based on the evidence of this year, there is no reason necessarily for us to trust that whatever they say is new about this is actually new. And so I think the recommendation for next year has to be wait until like May, June, when we actually get to see the pictures where they show off the front, they show off the back, and you know for sure what you are getting. I held on to this because I wanted to make a video to highlight in my review, holding the thing in hand, being able to point out that, look, they changed the information, and that's what happened with this book, and that's why I kept my pre-order. Otherwise, I would have cancelled this because it's not different enough for me, because I have, you know, like other images and stuff like that, and I don't like value it that much to keep the order. And that's the thing here, is just like, it was really cool this year to have this calendar and just kind of walk by it every day. I'm borderline at the point where, like, I don't even know if I'll use this calendar. I might kind of, you know, grab a Sonic calendar or something like that to put up this year, just so it's not the same basically as last year, apart from like 2 months basically. So an unfortunate thing, because like I said, I did praise the 2022 calendar as being like this thing that I felt got everything right about aiming it at the fans in the right way. But then when they did the next calendar, it felt like borderline they got everything wrong with it. And I think this goes down, it has to go down as probably one of the more disappointing releases of the year that is very representative of Avatar in 2022, and that is poor communication on behalf of a company making an Avatar product, the information not being spread maybe as much as it should be, because again, not everyone covers the news in as much detail as I do, so it does feel like I'm kind of one of the only ones actually like mentioning that, like, hey, the two calendars are basically the same, and the company is just like, yeah, we released it, who cares, sort of thing. So yeah, again, the recommendation has to be get it if you didn't get it last year, I guess, because it still has that unique factor to it. But if you did get last year's calendar, I feel like unless you just really, really want the new Avatar calendar and want to have a sort of collection of these, then by all means get it as well. But in terms of getting this for the new art, that whole aspect, they failed us this year, absolutely. Because that's the thing with these. I think these are nice enough printed, the images are big, you know, with how big the actual thing is, that, I'm holding on to this. Like, when we get to the end of this year, I'm holding on to my 2022 calendar. I got confused there between which one was which. I'm holding on to my 2022 calendar after this year because, like, why would I throw it out when it's got all this art in it? Now, admittedly, you could say I have this one, so I have most of the art anyway, but I'm going to hold on to it, you know, just that sort of thing. So, there is the situation here. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on the fact that they changed the description halfway through? So we didn't get Karuk, we didn't get Yue, and then what are your thoughts behind, like, what happened here? Like, is it because of something with the Yang Chen book and that information only being revealed? I think that book got announced in March this year. Is it something to do with that? Could they not get the artists to do more art, like, in time or something like that? What happened? Why do you think that this actually worked out this way? Because I think they just had this amazing thing on their hands. If they could have gotten more or less all new art for this, and it's just this ongoing thing where, like, there is a calendar sale every year from Avatar fans if you got this right. Now I'm skeptical about their next release. And that's just what they've done here with poor communication. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.